Welcome again, everybody, to the book launch. We're real excited today to have this. And I kind of wanted to get started with asking Lindsay some questions because I found this book to be probably one of the most interesting, most challenging, most fulfilling books to publish. It has so much of everything in it. Um, some of the poems are hard to read. You can feel the emotions, you can feel the pain behind the poems. Um, and just like the book says, they're poems for healing. And definitely that's what this book is about. I want to congratulate you, Lindsay, on this book. It's been a true labor of love. How long did it take you to put all this together to organize your book?
Yes, thank you, Lisa. I think really some of the poetry started to come out around 2017, right? When I did lose James Buchanan suddenly with his struggle with depression and suicide. So, as a new mom at the time, I turned to writing to heal and seek understanding and solace. And really, from 2017 to now, I was using the writing to, yeah, face my past. And I think what ended up happening it was about last June where I did write the poem Cobalt Blues. And I think from there, the idea of looking at poems for healing and bringing them together in that way formed. So I guess you could say it was kind of over, 7 years of different thematic poems that came together.
How did you come up with the title?
Yeah, I think that I was trying to convey hope to this generation. I really was taken aback when I read the story of a young girl who was choosing assisted suicide. She was only 25. And I thought to myself, I'm the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors. My Bobby Toby Kimmelman Bornstein taught me to be a survivor, right? Fight for your life, what you believe in. And I'm not saying this to shame her and her decision, but I felt like I wanted to get my message out there that through grief, through trauma, through darkness, there is a light. We can break up with these blues, supposedly, right? The cobalt blues. And even though maybe some of us feel that the grief takes over, and that cobalt I use to show how overbearing it can be, that is when that poem Cobalt Blue spoke to me, and I realized that maybe this whole book can take on that light, so I can share with people the idea that our grief doesn't have to define us, hold us back, and maybe we have challenges daily, monthly, yearly, depending on what we're going through. But I do want to share that wisdom of hope and understanding that we can still be happy even though we have grief.
Thanks, Lindsay. Now, today we are fortunate to have two guests here to read some poetry and ask some questions. And we have Nolcha Fox, who actually just has a book out officially now. That's her book that she just released,
Thank
Words
you.
and the Elephants. And of course, I'm biased because we published it. I do love the book. It was fun to do. But Nolcha Fox's poems have been curated in print and online journals. Her poetry books are available on Amazon and Dancy Girl Press. She was a nominee for a 2023 Best of the Net, 2024 Best of the Net Anthology, the nominee for 2023 Pushcart Prize, editor for Chewers and Mescadores. I think they actually changed the name a little bit to that. Also, she's a poet laureate for the Garden of Neuro. And I happen to know she also has another poetry book coming out.
Yes. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Jill Sharon Kimmelman is a two-time Pushcart Prize nominee in poetry. Her international publishing credits include Vita Brevis Press, Spillwords Press, Fine Lines, Better Than Starbucks Poetry and Fiction Journal, Poetic Musings, The Poet Magazine, ILA Magazine, Prolific Pulse Press LLC, World Inkers Network, Gardner Neural, Writing in a Woman's Voice, PLCS, Eric Publications, and Prolific Pulsations. And welcome as well to Jill. In her book, I don't have one handy in my hand, is You Are the Poem, which we published a couple of years ago. So welcome to you and you too and thank you for agreeing to recite poetry and ask some questions today. And I'm actually now going to turn it over to Lindsay.
Thank you. So today, I'm lucky enough to have Jill and Nolcha with me to read some of their poetry, but also each of them will read a poem from the collection. I'm going to start with the first poem entitled How I Became a Poet. How I Became a Poet. When my therapist prescribed journal writing, she said, I want you to journal about this. And I replied, I can't. It's too painful. But I can write a poem. Thank you. And Loach is going to read the foreword for me, right?
I'm going to read A Perfect Moment by James Buchanan. I had a perfect moment on a perfect day. The season was fall. The leaves were yellow. The view was perfect and the sun was out. The music was perfect. My body and mind felt calm. I felt a perfect moment that I thought might be what heaven was like. I knew the moment would pass, so I appreciated every second of it. I was grateful. I was in a wonderful place. Thank you for the perfect moment. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Nolcha. And so to share a backstory, that was a poem that my late friend James Buchanan wrote, and he shared with me because I inspired him to express himself through poetry. He had shared it with me in 2015, and when I lost him in 2017, I found the poem again and shared it with his family. I'm going to read now a poem in response to his perfect moment. And it's entitled, Your Suicide by My Side, Looming Like an Albatross. I am not okay. I am forever changed. And it just happens to be my favorite season, spring. Birthdays for my boys and husband. And now you, your suicide by my side, looming like an albatross. That's my life. That's my pain. And if mine is so great, then what must yours have been like? Sorry, I guess I was selfish for not staying in touch, but neither did you. And then you had to go and make it all final. Now that Instagram post, awaiting fireworks, the one that compelled you to tell me I still look the same, that's the last thing you said to me. But I still have some questions for you. That poem you sent me, A Perfect Moment, are you in it now? Did you find that eternal moment? And what's in a moment? Because that was our moment. And before I knew it, a moment turned into 2 years. I swear I was just tying my shoes, and I must have looked down for too long when all I heard was a thunderclap that Saturday morning while scrolling my news feed in the midst of mixing pancake batter amongst my babies and children's clatter and chatter. But it didn't matter. All I could see was you looming by my side like an albatross. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Nolcha to read We Didn't Know.
I wrote, "We didn't know about my baby brother's suicide. We didn't know what we would find when you left us forever. We came together to clean up, clean out. We didn't know the depth of pretense, the sham of family love. We didn't know how broken we were until you broke us."
Oh,
Thinking of that poem really touched me. I was really felt special and a privilege to have you share that and put it to rest, my Medium publication. Thank you for housing it there with us. So in response, I have another poem entitled, "You Were Too Good for Us." You were too good for this world. We couldn't understand you the way you needed to be understood. And yet you understood us all. You remind us of what is broken, how much is broken when you broke right along with it all. Today, I am broken. Maybe tomorrow I will pick up a piece, but for now, I hold all the broken pieces and just accept that they are all broken.
thank you. Beautiful. Jill? Yeah. I think we gotta unmute you. You're still on mute. There we go.
Shall I ask Lindsay the question first, Lisa, or share the poem first?
Let's go ahead with the poem first.
Okay. Lindsay, it was hard to pick a poem. I've never read a book quite like this before. So before I say anything more, you've got a fan in your corner cheering for the rest of your life. I absolutely am in awe. And the one that I chose is called "I Used to Look Away." For those of you who have your books, it's on page 104. I used to look away. I used to look away like I had to yesterday. I was taught when I wasn't heard by those who were meant to hear me. I used to look away and play along like child's play when I wasn't seen by those who were meant to see me. I used to look away and think the monster would just go away if I looked away, but the problems would copulate and penetrate and conceive and then birth more echoes of black holes. So I learned to look the monster right in the face to tell it what I needed and slowly watch it dissolve as problems were solved and tended to and even mended to. Now there's a ring of hope that rings true. There's in the burn where life now blooms, even when the vines try to take up room. I rise above it all like I wished in my childhood bedroom in full plume.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful poem, Lindsay. Thank you very much for letting me share it today.
Thank you.
Lisa, did you want me to read my poem?
I see you're going to read a new tradition.
I can do that. Okay. It's called A New Tradition, and it's dedicated to our friend Zan Johns. By the time I was born, Instead of cooking, my grandmother made dinner reservations, inspired delicious conversations. Though I'd heard tell stories of chicken fried in a cast iron skillet, someone else's memories of hot cornbread drizzled with lavender honey, the fluffiest biscuits ever slathered with sweet butter. No cast iron skillet in this girl's life, at least not yet. We have our traditions. Celebrating holidays means family. Foods prepared by generations of women with open hearts and skilled hands. Matzo balls floating in hearty chicken soup. Briskets brimming with carrots and onions in a rich and fragrant broth. And sponge cakes as light as air. Those Hanukkah latkes, crisp on the edges, soft in the center. No matter how many mom makes, not a single latke is ever left. So, no cast iron skillet in this girl's life, at least not yet. It's about time. Google yard sales near me. Arrive at sunrise before the best stuff has been picked over. Search tables, sink into muddy lawns, garish with funny gnomes, pink flamingos, and Christmas lights. At the fourth house, behind cans of SpaghettiOs and organic baby food, I spy a good size cast iron skillet. Grab it. Place a $5 bill in the palm of the kid babysitting the tables. Run to my car, clutching my find in old newspaper. Scrub that skillet for hours, attacking the crust of dirt and rust until my hands are dark brown, sparkling with tiny splinters. I oil it to a beautiful sheen, inside and out. Place it in a warm oven to dry. Now there's a skillet in this girl's life, seasoned with love. Join me, jump forward 20 years. My beloved niece sets her Sabbath table, assisted by her two little girls, ages 4 and 6. Mama, can we use Aunt Jill's skillet to bake our challah? They chorus. I don't see why not, she replies. Aunt Jill would love that we carry on the tradition that she began.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Love that poem.
That's a new one for you, Elliot. I'm
So
glad
many
to have
senses.
something to share.
So many senses, right? Now I'm hungry. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So yes, I do have 3 poems to end off with. Shall we do the poetry before the rest of the questions, or what do you think?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the poetry before the questions. And also want to invite everybody to be sure and put a little note in chat, because I like to save the chat and give it to Lindsay after we're done. If you have like a special note you'd like to put in there.
Perfect. So the 3 poems I'm going to share for the end here are from the end of the book. And within the book, there is a turn, right? Because breaking up with the Cobalt blues, near the end of the book, other colors come into light. So I'm going to start with Hope, are you there? Hope, are you there? Hope hasn't lived here in a while, but now I see her crooked smile as she defrosts our hearts in the most brokenness. Hope hadn't lived here anymore. She hadn't walked through our door, but she seems to be staying around this time for a while in a few lumps of unfolded piles. Hope is there. She's here. She's near. She's dear. She's around the corner. Soon she will appear. Maybe we can take her on a little ride by our side. Hope, dear, are you there? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Do we have a connection? Is your mic on? You're breaking up. Is your video on? It's fuzzy. Hello? Hope? Can anyone hear me? Oh, okay. Good. It's working. We have a connection now. Hi, Hope. How are you? I was hoping we could work together. Maybe do a collaboration. I have high hopes for us. And the next poem is Breaking Up with the Cobalt Blues. The blue is insidious now, cold and bold, cobalt blue, hard and prominent, the stain of man, hope flickering, like the warmth of the fire the monster saw, or the green light that mesmerized Jay Gatsby. Hard and soft, calm and strong, scrolling across the TV screen in a hauntingly familiar yet forgotten, hypnotizing, fuzzy blizzard. But the truth is, I prefer ocean blue, turquoise or sepia, with a romantic flair and flavors to indulge in. When life is so harsh and hazy, when the deep is so blue, it makes me want to break up with the torrid waves of the cobalt blues. So this last poem is called Stay Gold, and it is dedicated to my grade 8 teacher, Miss Pitcairn. There is a poem earlier in the book that gives you a little more insight into how she changed my life. When I was in grade 8, she did teach me the novel The Outsiders. She did award me the most improved in English award. Not the best in English, the most improved, but it still changed my life. Stay gold. Stay gold, stay true. It used to just be the important thing to do in our youth, to seek justice and truth. Even when living in broken homes or hanging on the wrong side of the tracks, you still had real friends. But when life eats away at memories and the golden sheen has dulled, or you had mistaken gold-plated jewels for the real thing, only then do you see that perhaps when the good die young, that's the only way to stay gold. And suddenly, staying gold means so much more than it used to, now that you know what it is to rust. You, my friend, are forever golden and full of trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. If anybody has a copy of the book, may hold it up right now. I want to make sure I get a shot. Anybody that has a cover. Okay, thank you. All right, I think we're going to questions now. I think Nolcha and Jill are going to ask some questions of Lindsay.
Okay, first I have to apologize for not holding up a book because mine's on Kindle on my computer. I couldn't figure out how to hold up my computer. So My question to Lindsay is, what started you writing poetry and what keeps you writing?
Yes, you know what? I think really when I was young, my mother encouraged me to keep a diary, a journal, and for years it was just a little diary, right? And then when I became a teenager, really my entries just turned into poems, right? And I would doodle and put down my thoughts and all that. And in grade 13, I did take creative writing. And my friends in high school, I was just the girl with the journal all the time, right? But I have to say, when I did become a mom, and I've shared this before, obviously working hard as a mom and teacher, I didn't have as much time for my writing. But I do have to say, what kept me writing was finding an audience and a writing community, right? And as a young emerging writer at the time on Medium, to be honest, I found a lot of support. And you hear people say things like, "Oh, you shouldn't, publish your stuff out there. You should keep it all for the journals." And it's like, but you know what? That kept me writing because I had an audience who wanted to hear from me and inspired me, and I felt like people were listening to me. So, yes, I think whatever works for everybody is what works for them. But at the end of the day, what keeps me writing is, yes, my audience and need to express myself creatively. And my last point I want to share, of course, is I think all poets, and today we've seen that, right, in our love of beauty. So I think sometimes just the aesthetic of creating something beautiful, right, in this world is motivating. And earlier we had a conversation, right, just about the beauty of flowers. And I believe that just creating beauty is something that motivates me.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jill. You're on mute. You're on mute, Jill. Need to unmute.
Okay. Lindsay, we go through periods, highs, lows. In certain times in your life, you've gone through just more than your share. I guess we call them twisted trees. They're not everyday obstacles. And that's why your readers and your fans are so in awe of what you do because of all you've overcome. And I realize the healing comes from years of learning to be kind to yourself and all of the good things. But what I'm wondering is, at what point do you think you will be able to say, I'm healed, I'm doing great, I feel good, and I think that it's really awesome to know that by putting my words out there, words that Mrs. Cairn, all the way back in 8th grade for you, believed in you, those words are reaching your readers now. What I'm wondering is, when do you decide I'm where I want to be? My life is what I've tried to make the very best, and it's working. How would you say that when you approach the next book, will it be about healing, or will it be about all the things you can now say to yourself, I can do because I'm healed?
Thank you. That's a wonderful question.
It was probably really rambly, and I do apologize.
I do have the gist of it. Thank you so much. Yes. You know what? I think it's interesting, right? Because originally the thematic poems about motherhood, when I wanted to get them out into the world, when I expressed the journey I had around recurrent miscarriages and infertility. And at that time, I said to myself, well, I can't get this book out. I haven't even gotten my travel book about out when I went to Israel and explored my young identity, right? So yes, once I got the chapbook out and the motherhood book out, of course, this really facing my traumas and my darkness and grief and all that. You do ask an interesting question of, what's next for the poetry and how do I see the healing impacting me? And I have to say that I think the next move is actually a book of love poems. So I think the funny thing is you are very right, actually, that I feel like I did have to kind of get all these things out of the way. But of course, they won't just be any love poems, right? I think sometimes the book did, of course, express that hate poems or unloved poems or complicated love poems are also a thing. So in any case, yes, so the book was a journey, and you are right when you say, am I ready for a different journey? And yes, I am looking forward to kind of working with a little bit more unconventional book of love poems.
I can't wait to read it. And Mazel Tov again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. That was a great question too. Y'all did wonderful. Anybody else have questions in the audience? You can just open up your mic and speak. You don't have to raise your hand or anything. No, don't everybody jump on at once. Okay.
Okay, I'll ask a question. Okay. Everybody who knows me knows that my relationship with Elizabeth Ogamondide in Nigeria has been an extraordinary experience for both of us. It started 4 years ago, and it started out as a mentor protege type of relationship, but it's so much more than that now. And what I was wondering is, do you see yourself as a mentor because you have so much to give? Do you see individuals coming up in your life that you think maybe from the writing perspective you've got something to share, to make younger poets stand out with their work?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Yeah, I have been thinking more lately about creating, a creative writing platform, mentoring online class for teenagers interested in, the healing aspects and the expressive aspect of creative writing. So, I recently did kind of put that out through Put It to Rest, and it's something I'm definitely interested in. I just think it's funny because as an English teacher, a trained English teacher, believe it or not, I have not really taught much creative writing. Within the class, yes, but the specialized courses are actually hard to come by. But now where I am and how I really do have a passion for helping teens with writing and expressing themselves. And I do really think it's valuable today, especially in this day and age, right? To help teens slow down. So yes, I think I see myself more as a mentor, for, like I said in the past, people who might not even consider themselves a writer. And that was part of my philosophy for Put It to Rest, to get experienced writers to share complicated experiences and put their experiences to rest, or to, inspire people to try writing and, see how it goes for them. But I too have found so much support in the writing community. Obviously, the Prolific Pulse, Prolific Press family, and also family on Medium, and a lot of support in Toronto from the poets, and Poets Far and Wide, who offered me, advanced reviews for the book. I'm really pleased that everybody could be here today, right? Simon, Peter, Nolcha, Jill, and also Elliot. And I think that it is important, right, to find your writing community and find your people. Because I think we all know as writers, right, that our biggest cheerleaders are most often other writers, right? So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Lindsay.
I see Peter is here today, and I want to read his review. It's on the back cover of the book. It says, "The loss of a loved one through suicide rips one's entire life apart, almost. Lindsay Soberano Wilson deals with that loss unflinchingly in these poems. From pain, she wrought beauty. From chaos and despair, an affirmation of self as a human being, a woman, a poet. Poetry is something to lose yourself in and find yourself in. Cobalt Blues constitutes a journey that Soberano Wilson makes ours through her resilience and love of words. She is a survivor. Ultimately, her book celebrates being here, like in the poem, when I climb back out of the darkness. Breaking up with the Cobalt Blues is the beacon of light." Thank you, Peter. Beautiful words. I also have even a longer review in the back of the book by Peter. Really appreciate
Well, thank you very much, Lisa,
that.
for reading that.
It's a labor of love when you write reviews for people. It really is.
Oh, definitely.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Okay, does any
Went out of his way. He just offered to write an extra long review. And at the time, he was like, okay, well, I can submit it here or there. And then, me and Lisa were discussing, and we thought it'd be beautiful to include the Engraved Roses review in the back. So yes, thank you.
Well,
You're welcome, Lindsay. I'm getting better at finding places to get reviews published too, I think. It's a little hobby, but I do enjoy it. Yes.
I'll be glad to post your review up on my blog if you'd like me to.
Especially when they're books as good as Nolch's and Lindsay's.
Thank you.
So, Lisa, was that an offer to get Pete's review on
Yes.
Perfect?
Yeah, I
Okay.
could put it up on my blog. I have a pretty good
Perfect.
following on that.
Okay.
Sure. I can
Okay.
do that for both of your books.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I want to thank you all for coming out today. I know Elliot has a copy of this book on the way. In a couple of weeks, it should get to you. As he won the other drawing that I had for it. But I'd like to have a drawing for a paperback copy of the book. And so, Lindsay, I'd like to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 6.
Okay. I will go with 3.
And that would be Nolcha. So, Nolcha, I'll send you a paperback copy.
Okay.
And I know where you live, so I'll just mail it to you.
I'm in trouble.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming out today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Congratulations again to Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
I appreciate all your support. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.